All right, let's slow this down and really unpack what's going on here, because this whole Kennedy clashes with lying Dem nominee moment is less about one spicy exchange and more about how Washington actually works when the cameras are rolling and the gloves come off. This kind of confrontation follows a very familiar script. You've got a sharp-tongued senator, in this case, Kennedy, who's built a reputation on plain-spoken, slightly folksy but absolutely surgical questioning. On the other side, you've got a Democratic nominee who walks into the hearing with a carefully rehearsed story, a stack of talking points, and the confidence that they can dance around uncomfortable questions the way so many before them have. And for a while, that dance works. Until it doesn't. The setup, a nominee who thinks they are prepared, these nominees almost always arrive believing they've already won. By the time someone is sitting in that chair, they've been vetted by party leadership, coached by legal teams, and told, sometimes explicitly, that the hearing is mostly political theater. Smile, deflect, emphasize your resume, so you don't recall when things get tricky, and wait for confirmation. That mindset shows. You can usually hear it in the tone of their answers, polished, vague, and deliberately noncommittal. Instead of responding directly, they pivot. Instead of answering yes or no, they deliver mini speeches about context, process, and shared values. At first glance, it sounds reasonable, but to someone like Kennedy, it sounds like noise. And Kennedy has zero patience for noise. Kennedy's style, folksy on the surface, ruthless underneath. One of the biggest mistakes nominees make is underestimating Kennedy's style. He doesn't sound like a stereotypical Washington bruiser. He sounds like your uncle who tells long stories at Thanksgiving and then quietly demolishes your argument in one sentence. That's intentional. He asks simple questions on purpose. Not because he doesn't understand complexity, but because simplicity removes escape routes. When you ask someone a long, complicated question, you give them room to wriggle. When you ask, did you say this, yes or no, suddenly the walls close in. And that's exactly where this clash begins. Kennedy doesn't start with accusations. He starts with confirmation. He establishes what the nominee has said publicly, what they've claimed under oath, and what they've assured the committee is true. He lets them commit to their version of events in real time. That's step one. And it's crucial. The lie, or the half-truth, that changes everything. The turning point in moments like this always comes when the nominee doubles down on something that's shaky. Maybe it's a past statement. Maybe it's their role in a controversial decision. Maybe it's their claimed lack of involvement in something they were very clearly involved in. They say it calmly, confidently, sometimes even with a little indignation, as if offended by the implication. That's when Kennedy pauses. That pause matters. It's not dramatic silence, it's calculation, because he already knows what's coming next. Let me show you something. This is the moment that clips are made of. Kennedy doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't grandstand. He simply introduces evidence. A document, a transcript, an email, a prior statement. Something official, something undeniable. And suddenly, the nominee's confident posture starts to shift. Because now this isn't about interpretation or philosophy. It's about facts. What makes this clash so effective is that Kennedy doesn't accuse a nominee of lying outright, at least not at first. He lets the contradiction speak for itself. He reads their own words back to them. Slowly, clearly, sometimes twice. And you can almost feel the oxygen leave the room. The body language tells a real story. Watch any hearing like this, and you'll notice the same physical changes every time. The nominee stops making eye contact. The shoulders tense up. The answers get longer and more rambling. Legalistic language creeps in. This is where you hear phrases like, "That's not how I would characterize it. I think we're talking about different contexts. I don't believe that reflects the full picture." Translation, "I'm trapped in trying to buy time." Kennedy doesn't interrupt. That's another key part of his method. He lets them talk. The longer they talk, the deeper the hole gets. Why the evidence hits so hard, what really lands here isn't just that evidence exists. It's that it's simple, clear, unambiguous. The nominee can't argue it's fake. They can't claim it's been misattributed. It's their words, their signature, their decision. This strips away the nominee's biggest shield, plausible deniability. And once that's gone, the hearing shifts from policy discussion to credibility crisis. Because if you lie, or even seriously mislead, About this, what else are you lying about? That's the unspoken question hanging over the room. The attempted recovery, blame, semantics, and misunderstandings. At this point, nominees almost always try one of three strategies. Semantic gymnastics, they argue that while the document says X, what they meant was Y. Blame the process, they suggest staff drafted it, or context was missing, or timelines were confusing. Feign offense, they imply the questioning is unfair, partisan, or disrespectful. None of these work particularly well against Kennedy, because he's not interested in intent, he's interested in truth. And he keeps bringing the conversation back to that same point. Why this moment resonates with viewers, the reason clips like this explode online isn't just politics, it's psychology. Most people watching have experienced some version of this in real life. A boss, a co-worker, a politician, or a public figure clearly dodging responsibility while insisting they are being honest. Seeing someone finally get pinned down by their own words is satisfying in a very human way. Kennedy doesn't speak like an elite. He speaks like someone who expects straight answers. And when he doesn't get them, he calls it out calmly but unmistakably. That's why these moments stick. The broader implications, trust, power, and accountability zoom out. And this clash isn't really about one nominee. It's about the growing gap between public trust and political institutions. When nominees lie, or appear to lie, under oath, it reinforces the idea that the system protects its own. That rules are flexible for the powerful. That confirmation hearings are formalities rather than serious vetting processes. Moments like this crack that illusion. Even if the nominee ultimately survives politically, the damage is done. Their credibility takes a hit. Their future testimony is questioned. Their name becomes associated with that exchange forever. In Washington, reputation is currency, and moments like this are expensive. Why Kennedy keeps doing this, and why it works. Critics love to say Kennedy is just performing for cameras. But that misses the point. Yes, he understands optics, but his approach also serves a functional purpose. It forces clarity. You can't hide behind ideology when someone is asking about your own statements. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think or what you want to see next.